So it's not a situation that his move or Malevolent Shrine isn't strong enough to one shot Mahoraga. It's just that he underestimated it, and he didn't know that it could adapt to all phenomena like that. You know what I'm saying? So as a result, he had no choice but to use the fire arrow as a replacement, and he obviously used a maximum output without, like, not a maximum version of it, but he used a way more powerful version of it than he did of the Malevolent Shrine, because it didn't matter how much power put in his slashes, it would not not Malevolent Shrine, but in his cleave and dismantle, because it wouldn't matter how much power he put into that. Since Mahoraga adapted, it would not go down. And not only that, it could also even block some of it. So that's why he did Malevolent Shrine, because he thought, okay, it could just adapt by blocking, but he didn't realize it could just straight out survive and tank the shit and not die from it no more. So that's the reason. That's literally the reason why Malevolent Shrine didn't work. It had nothing to do with power output. Domain expansions are more powerful than normal techniques, apart from maybe maximum techniques, right? We'll get onto that maybe at some point in another video. But so that's literally the reason, right? So Gojo tanking Malevolent Shrine to that extent, like way more impressively than Mahoraga, is a complete different scenario. So it's not, Malevolent Shrine was not even phasing him after he realized that he can out heal it, right? He can out heal the damage output. So adding a fire arrow, I don't think makes a difference. And secondly, he couldn't add the fire arrow. Let me explain why. Because he had the Megumi soul trying to adapt to Infinite Void whenever Gojo expanded his domain expansion, right? Whenever he wasn't using domain amplification as well, he was also trying to use Megumi soul to adapt to Gojo. But Gojo's technique is so freaking complicated that it's still, Sukuna himself is not fully adapted, and Megumi is not fully adapted. So again, I think the translations would clear this up a bit better when the full chapter is out. Wow, shout out to Miyamura, like obviously cooking like does wonders for us. But yeah, I think that's the situation where two reasons. One, he already had another technique out, and he was using domain amplification, which also nullifies curse techniques. So in order to do either one of them, it meant he couldn't do anything but what was already imbued to his domain. All right, so that also showcases that he might perhaps be able to change the properties of his domain so that it uses the fire instead. But I think obviously Malevolent Shrine is probably the strongest thing he has when it comes to a domain expansion, and that's why he used that, because obviously he wants to just kill him. Like, anybody got time for this? And just as much you can see how much he's exerting here, because obviously the nose and eyes bleeding at the end, he looks way more damaged than Gojo. Because of that Infinite Void that hit him, Megumi, and fucked both of them up. Even though it was less than 10 seconds, it fucked them up. And I think neither of them would have bled if they didn't try to open the domain expansion. But because they opened the domain expansion, or tried to open the domain expansion and activated that part of the brain that stores curse energy, at least the domain expansion, again, it's going to be explained better in the translation. I think what happens here is that the overload fucked up the whole body. You know what I'm saying? It fucked up the brain, and then that's what caused the bleeding. But Sukuna obviously had it worse because his eyes and nose bled, and his mouth, he was just bleeding all over the place. You know what I'm saying? He looked like he was dying. And Gojo got back down to his knee. That's kind of the balancing act there. Gojo had to fall because his body felt it so much, and Sukuna's eyes was bleeding, and he was shocked himself, like, what the fuck is going on? So that's literally the reasoning behind Sukuna's strategy, because he's a smart guy. He's not underestimating Gojo. He's told every character he's fought that, like, you can't reach Gojo level. Like, in order to reach Gojo level, you have to do this. He acknowledges Gojo. He's just not gonna do it to his face. You know what I'm saying? But he acknowledges Gojo. He knows he acknowledges Gojo, because when he fought Jogo, he was like, to reach the level to Satoru Gojo. You know what I'm saying? It's always Gojo. Gojo is stuck in his brain because he knows when he first fought him, he knows that this guy is an absolute fucking animal. That's why he thought, oh, okay, this guy is obviously the leader of the world because of Japan or whatever, or Jujutsu, because obviously he's the strongest. Clearly, there's nobody stronger. Immediately, as one finger when Gojo didn't even show barely any techniques, he deduced at that moment that this guy is the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer alive, just from that alone. So that just showcases A, his aptitude at understanding, and B, how broken Gojo is. That he just knew this motherfucker gotta be the strongest. So as a result, he strategized meticulously. Again, how did Gojo get defeated? At one time he got defeated, right? He got defeated because he got worn out, and that's what Sukuna was trying to do, wear him out, because he can't get past Infinite Void. Oh, sorry, a Limitless. You can't do it, right? Just the fire is not going to do it. Nothing's going to do it. But you know what could, right? Shoe head effect, right? Not even the sure head effect, because the sure head effect won't even hit him either. But if his curse energy is burnt out by getting defeated in a domain expansion, which Gojo did get defeated in domain expansion 3 times in a row, that's what will do it. But then Gojo just started fucking repairing his fucking burnt out curse technique and tanking everything and beating the brakes off Sukuna inside Malevolent Shrine so much so that the shit collapsed over and over, which is insane. And people thinking that like Sukuna is winning, he's not winning. Gojo winning, he's not winning. Neither of them are winning. They're clearly stalemating, right? Let me explain how. The first 3 domain expansions that Sukuna won, that's Sukuna winning, but Gojo adapting. Then Gojo won the next 3. Even though both of the domains collapsed, Sukuna came out damaged. Therefore, Gojo won those. Gojo came out unscathed on all 3, right? So that is like, what, 6 domain expansions? Like, holy, right? And then the battle balanced again when Gojo started bleeding, and obviously Malevolent Shrine, Gojo started bleeding and tiring out from continuously repairing his brain. And then Gojo took the lead by hitting an Infinite Void. Then Sukuna took the lead by breaking Infinite Void with Mahoraga. And then Gojo again balanced it. Then he took even a slightly further lead when Gojo's domain expansion would not work. And then Gojo then, the stalemate then happened when Sukuna started bleeding as well, and Gojo started beating his ass again. So that's really what's happening in the battle. It's a 50-50 battle. Those 5D chess by Sukuna, but Gojo's overwhelming, and I mean overwhelming, aggressive offense is balancing out Sukuna's ingeniousness, strategizing, and hacks abilities, right? Because technically Sukuna has all the advantages. I know I love Zonin, but he thinks Gojo has all the advantage when it's actually quite the opposite. Sukuna has all the advantage, all the intel, 10 shadows, using Megumi Soul, all of that. He's actually a fraud. I'm not even gonna lie. Listen, I said it for the memes in the last video, but this is actually factual at this point, that this man is a fraud. He needed Megumi to tank some of that. So that means if he didn't have Megumi to tank Infinite Void, he was cooked. It was GG. It was GG. Not even just my heart. He was cooked. GG's. Because he's literally at the same level as Gojo right now, despite most of the damage going to Megumi Soul. He's actually even slightly more damage than Gojo right now. And that's why it's a balance, because he's more damage than Gojo. So that's the situation. That's what's happening in the battle. Sukuna's not an idiot. And neither is Gojo. Gojo took risks, and so did Sukuna. Gojo took a risk by just hopping into Sukuna's domain expansion, not knowing what the fuck is going on, and then realized I could survive this. Sukuna took a risk saying, okay, let me not reveal all my other techniques. Let me use this technique because it's guaranteed to stop this guy's bullshit ass broken abilities. That's it. That's the situation. And Sukuna couldn't use those techniques while simultaneously trying to adapt to Infinite Void and Limitless, right? So, and that's the problem. Sukuna is still trying to adapt to Infinite Void because he wants to get rid of that arsenal from Gojo, because it's too risky. If he lands whatever to Gojo, Gojo can heal. If Gojo lands Infinite Void to him clean, it's over. There's no coming back. He's GG, right? He can do what he wants with him, and that's the problem. Gojo's sure hit is just way better against everybody, to be honest. While Sukuna's sure hit is superior to everybody else's in the verse, Gojo's sure hit is superior to his. But then Sukuna balances it out by having the more refined domain expansion. But Gojo figured out how to, just with overwhelming offense, how to break that by making his thing his exterior so small that it's so powerful that Sukuna has to increase the strength of it inside the domain. And then while he's doing that, Gojo is beating the brakes off of him. And boom. And that's really the situation. It is currently a stalemate. Nobody's winning, ladies and gentlemen. And my initial prediction was that it's going to be a draw. Because the problem is, either of them winning means it's guaranteed win for the other side. That's the problem. That's why I don't think either of them will win. I think both of them will fry their brains to the point that they're just incapacitated. Kenjaku's gonna take or Ice Lady's gonna take Sukuna, and Jujutsu High is gonna take Gojo, right? And I think they're going to be healing while Kenjaku is going on a rampage, and it's gonna take them, because the brain damage is gonna take way longer to heal, and that they'll need maybe a month, maybe some time to heal. And while they're healing, Kenjaku's doing his thing, and the boys are trying to fight Kenjaku and stop him from bringing the merger. The merger comes to life. Yeah, this is what I think will probably happen. The merger comes to life. Gojo and Yuta and Maki and Hakari fight the merger combined, right? After dispatching of Kenjaku, right? And then Sukuna fights Yuji. Either that or Megumi comes back somehow. Sukuna gets his own body or another body, and again Megumi and Yuji fight oh, that'd be beautiful. Megumi and Yuji fight Sukuna in a 2v1. Maybe Nobara comes back. But they fight in a 2v1 or 3v1. If, fingers crossed, Nobara, she's never gonna come back, but I'm coping here. Nobara comes back and the three of them fight Sukuna. And then Gojo and the rest and the heavy hitters fight the merger, and maybe they die fighting the merger. But Yuji and Gojo comes back not as powerful. Yuji and Megumi win against Sukuna, and then they also defeat the merger, or the merger is damaged enough that they defeat the merger, or they lose. But that's fine. But I think that and the merger takes over the world. But that I think that's. I actually think it's not going to be a bad ending. I think it's going to be a happy ending. I'm like happy enough, as in like for a dark show. I think it's going to be that, Team Gojo is going to win. Whether Gojo and the team are alive is different gravy. But humanity will win. I think that's what the story is gearing towards. So that's what I think will happen. But what do you guys think? Anyway, it's been your boy Supreme Trader God. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But only if you got the cursed energy at the levels of Gojo, the levels of Sukuna, the levels of Yuta. If you're a top tier, special, great, you know what I'm saying, then you got it. But if not, listen, I get it. You just a pleb. You know what I'm saying? You just a peon. I'm out.